reading today from the Gospel of Matthew, the 7th chapter, beginning with the first verse, and this is part of the Sermon on the Mount. Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Now, we've all heard this. Don't judge. And we all judge. We even judge people we don't know. You ever been out at night and you see a group of teenagers in hoodies all standing under the street light? And you know they're up to no good. How do you know that? You're judging them when you don't know them. You ever been behind an idiot who's driving 35 miles an hour on the speedway, on the freeway? Again, even in that sentence, you know I'm judging that person. We judge other people. It's kind of what we do. We're not supposed to, but we do it. Now, I don't know if there's anything wrong with thinking the person who's driving erratically in front of you is an idiot. I don't know if that's what Jesus is talking about when he says don't judge. But we judge over important things too. We judge over who's saved and who's a sinner. And you know, that's a real important one. Because we all tend to judge these in the same way. Now remember, Jesus said, as you judge, so you shall be judged. So we don't want to just say, well, somebody's a sinner or not. Because maybe we actually do recognize that we're also guilty of sins. So what we do is we go through the sins and we divide them up. And we have little sins and big sins. And you know what the difference between a little sin and a big sin is? A little sin is the sin that I'm tempted to do. And a big sin is the sin that you're tempted to do. That's how we do it, you know. Gossiping. Well, gossiping can be a big sin, but when we gossip, no, that's just a small sin. It's not that important. It's not like I'm a murderer or a thief. I'm just a gossiper. Pride is a big sin. That's somebody else's sin. Gluttony, too often that's my sin, but that's okay, that's not a big one. That's a little one, you know. It's my sin, so it's not big. And then we want to say, I'm better than them because all of my sins are little sins. And I guess they're easier for God to forgive than the big ones. And that's how we judge, and that's how we divide it. We say, well, I can judge them because I'd never do that. You know, they're doing something horrible, I'd never do that. I can judge them. Oh, you gossip too? Don't worry, I won't judge you for gossiping, as long as you don't judge me for gossiping. I won't judge you for overeating, as long as you don't judge me for overeating. I don't have a part of. That's how we do it. And it's wrong. James reminds us that if you break one part of the law, you're a lawbreaker. It doesn't matter what part of the law you break. So, if you commit a sin, you're a sinner. And unlike our legal code where we have misdemeanors and felonies, the law of God doesn't. All sins are sins. There's no categories of, well, this is a felony, and this is a Class B felony, and this is a misdemeanor, and this is just a civil matter. Now, I'm glad our law does that, I think. In society, we need that. But I think when it comes to salvation, there's a reason that James is right, and that God says all sin is sin. We can't say your sin is worse than mine. And that's why it bothers me when churches get focused on one sin or one or two sins and act like that is the biggest sin in the world. No, it's not. Yes, it's a sin, and it may not be a sin that we're ever tempted to do. But don't worry, we got enough temptations. We got enough sins of our own. It is not our job to judge other people according to their sins, and it is especially not our job to judge their sins as worse than ours. Now, do I think I am better than people that are living in sin? Yes, but it is not because of me. It is because of Christ. It is because of God's grace to me. God's grace for me. Take the worst sinner you can imagine, the worst you know. Without God's grace, you're just the same as that person. Without God's grace, your eternal fate is the same as theirs. It's not because your sins are less than theirs. It's because your sins are covered with the blood of Christ. We have a choice when we judge, because here's the truth. We're sinful people and we're going to judge others. Even though Jesus told us not to, we're going to. But he did say, so by the measure you judge others, you will be judged. And he doesn't mean by how you divide sins between good sins and bad sins. He means, are you going to judge others by the law or by grace? Do you want to be judged by the law or by grace? Well, I know what I want. I want to be judged by grace. I want to be able to stand before the throne of God and beg for mercy and know that I will receive it. That's what I want. I don't want to have to stand before God and list all the little sins I've committed in my life and accept the punishment for them. I want to stand before God and hear Jesus say, the price has already been paid for him. He's covered in the blood of the Lamb, and his name is written in the book of life. That's what I want for me. And if I want that for me, if I want to be judged by grace, I have to judge every other sinner in the world by grace. Because I'm the sinner that's been judged by grace, not by the law. And as I said, James reminds us, we can't just pick and choose from the law like it's some sort of smorgasbord or salad bar. You take the whole thing. And as Paul reminds us, guess what? We've all fallen short. We've all failed under the law. We can't stand before God and go, but what about him? You know, okay, I did these things, but he did those things, and those things are worse than the things I did. No whataboutism. No trying to make false comparisons to say, well, yeah, okay, I was bad, but I wasn't as bad as so-and-so. That's not a question that is asked when you stand before the judgment seat. They don't even ask if you're a sinner when you stand before the judgment seat, because you are. They already know that. The question that is asked is, are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? The question that is asked is your name written in the book of life? Are you saved by grace? Now, this doesn't mean we can't look at somebody's life and say, I think they're sinning. And this definitely doesn't mean that we don't try to convince people to change their sinful lifestyles. But it means we offer them the same grace that we receive. And I hear people say, well, okay, but they remain in sin, you know. They sin and they remain in sin. They keep living a sinful lifestyle. Well, sin is addictive. You ever notice that? We probably all have at least one sin that we really like to stop doing, and we just can't. Even though we're saved, even though we've tried to give our lives completely over to God, I eat too much. I know it. And I don't want to do it. But I do. I know it's wrong and I still do it. It's not something that is easy for me to just say, I'm not going to do it. Now, I've told myself several times over my lifetime, I'm going to stop overeating. And if you who struggle with weight know exactly how that goes. It's not easy. But God still loves me even when I overeat. Even though I continue to overeat. Even though I continue to sin. Do not judge others because their sin is different than you, because their sin is, you think, in some way worse than yours. thy grace.